Good morning on this beautiful sunny day here in Perth, Australia. Oh, now my printer wants to talk. That's fantastic because I just printed 2 pages. So today I'm going to talk exclusively about how you can selectively stitch a background. It's what I did with my zombie nurse, the caretaker. I didn't actually stitch a lot of the background. I left most of it out and just picked bits and pieces that I wanted to stitch to give it more depth and where I felt it was appropriate. So what I did for the zombie nurse was I picked a fabric with a very close colour to the background, so it was very similar, and then I just used my discretion to stitch around the background, and what I ended up with was a very unique piece to me, and it's something that wouldn't be replicated because I've selectively stitched it. So it's just another way to add another level of personalization to your patterns. Now, a lot of the patterns that I do, yes dude, I'm doing a video, off you go. So, a lot of the patterns I do are full coverage, and then sometimes I'll create a pattern called backgroundless where I take away the background so that you can use your hand-dyed fabrics and everything. But sometimes I'm just time poor and I can't get to it, so I just create the full coverage without taking away the background. And unless there's a really big request by lots of people to take away the background, there's not much sense in me doing it because it takes hours and hours and hours because I handpick each colour around that feathering and everything. So anyway, I'm going to talk about how I do the selective stitching. So what I've got here is a background page. Now, what you'll notice in my patterns is that you get what's called an SB pattern. That's the title of the file, and it's called solid block. And you can't really tell from this one, and you can see my black ink's running out because it's come out more sort of browny, but you know, it prints the colour of that X and then it puts the symbol in, and you'll find there's a good example in that little corner there. See how it looks white in there? So where it's really, really dark, it changes the symbol colour to a white colour so that you can see it more easily. So as you can see from this background, it's mostly white, a white sort of colour, and then you can even see where there's little blobs of action happening there. So what I would do in this instance is, and you don't even have to print the SB pattern, it's entirely optional. I find it's a good colour guide for me when I want to selectively stitch a background. So I'll look at it and go, okay, and then on your colour list I'll find it and I highlight it. So I know that that's my primary background colour because I've looked over a lot of the SB pages and gone, right, that's the main colour in the background. So, I did for a time traditionally stitch from the centre of the pattern out, but I didn't like how much I was rubbing over pre-stitched areas, so now I do my preference is to go right to left, right to left, right to left. That's just the way I touch my stitched area less. So that's what I'm doing. So what I would do is look, and I would look for the first signs of your subject matter. So whether it's a zombie nurse head or a whale or whatever it happens to be, you find it in the SB and then you match that to, your regular black and white pattern, and you go, okay, I know this is definitely part of the animal or whatever it is that I'm stitching, and you stitch that and you stitch out towards the background. And then when you do hit that background, you can look at it and go, and you can pick and choose which of those backgroundy colours you want to stitch. And if you keep your pages that you've already done, you can always go back and go, no, I don't really like this section, I'm going to put some more feathering in there. Feathering is just my term for, stitching some of the background colours in there. So that's how I do it. I don't know whether I've explained that very clearly, but that's the technique I use. Yeah, my printer's definitely running out of ink because it hasn't even printed those doohickeys. It's on my cheaper printer that doesn't have the continuous ink system, so my apologies for that. But that was purely for, you know, example purposes. And that's how I've done the zombie nurse. It worked really well for me. So I just wanted to share that with you, because a lot of people look at my full coverage and go, oh, that is so much coverage. But you are never, ever, 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 ever obliged to do the background. It's entirely up to you. And it's all about your confidence level and how comfortable you are to doing these sorts of things, because you're really taking the pattern into your own hands and trusting your own judgment on which sections to stitch. But it is a fun project and it is a fun thing to do, and it does open a lot more hand-dyed fabrics for you guys to play around with. The ones that I'm doing now, I mean, Octavius, I took away the background for already, because I knew I wasn't going to stitch his background, and I thought he looked nicer without it for a pattern, because, you know, the hand-dyed fabrics would go really well with him. But as I mentioned, it's all a time thing for me, so, and I have a really good mix of clients out there. Some like background, some don't. So I'm just going to try and stick to having a background on there, but with enough requests, I'm more than happy to do one with the background removed for you guys. I just need enough people to be keen for it. We're talking like, I'd say at least 3 people for it to be worth taking away the background. So that's where I'm up to on that, and I hope you enjoyed the video and got some cool ideas from it. Talk to you later. Bye.